tenders out there.
This meeting is being recorded.
And then heavy equipment with water, 116 resources. Again, Missoula Dispatch carrying 44 of those, 116. The closest one after that, Kootenai Dispatch, followed closely by Kalispell Dispatch, 18 and 16. Majority of the resources for heavy equipment with water are the Skidgens, as you can see. So that's the layout of kind of where all these resources reside. I also wanted to point out that Bozeman Dispatch Center is closing its doors. There will no longer be a dispatch center in Bozeman to dispatch resources. We have notified all those folks that currently have resources in the Bozeman Dispatch, and during the rollover modifications, which start March 1st and will end March 31st, those folks will have to select a different dispatch center other than Bozeman Dispatch. And then going into these solicitations, Bozeman Dispatch Center isn't going to be an option to select. So that's something I wanted to make sure I hit on. Bozeman Dispatch will no longer be available for folks to select as their dispatch center. I just wanted to kind of go over the hierarchy of interagency fire in the Northern Rockies specifically. It's not just the Forest Service. There's a lot of agencies involved. All these solicitations are utilized by multiple agencies, state and federal, and the Forest Service is just one of those many in the Northern Rockies coordinating group that have that interagency approach to wildland fire management. They come up with direction that all members follow to take that interagency approach to wildland fire management. And so within that, the Forest Service does do a lot of the solicitations and is picking up more. I did want to show folks that there has been a significant shift. The last, I guess it's happened 2 years ago. We used to have our regional acquisition folks. So we had Debbie Wasilius and Jeff Gardner for Region 1 doing all of the solicitations that would come due during cycle. That has changed quite a bit to where the acquisition organization has moved up to that Washington office level. Their new name is the Procurement and Property Services. They have different branches. Some of these branches are specific to acquiring resources for the Forest Service programs and forests. Like that's the field procurement operations. The one we're interested in, or you'd be interested in, is the incident procurement operations, and all the IBPAs are done through this equipment service branch, which has 2 different zones. So that's something new that you're probably seeing with this the water handling solicitations. These solicitations coming out, they're not regionally specific. They are now including multiple regions within those zones. Another branch to be aware of is this incident management support branch, and they're the ones that do the EERAs when incidents don't have the procurement staff there to assist with that workload. And then I can jump in to a little map here of kind of the breakdown of these zones for the equipment service branch. Northern Rockies, you have North Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, a small part of South Dakota in the East Zone, along with Region 2 and Region 4, in addition to Regions 8 and 9. So the big difference there is where we used to have those regional COs working on all the solicitations for Region 1. We now have one CO that's the signatory CO and an assistant CO that's working on a specific solicitation. So for example, water handling, we have Rashana Workman now covering all the water handling equipment for Region 2, Region 1, Region 4, Regions 8 and 9. And then you can see here, for those of you that are in multiple regions, the West Zone includes Regions 3, 5, 6, and Region 10. So that's kind of the split between this equipment service branch, which does the workload for these IBPAs, incident blanket purchase agreements. And here's a breakdown of the organization and the contracting officers within the East Zone Equipment Service Branch. Jason Brandt is the branch chief. You have Kim Luft as the supervisory contracting officer, and then Jeff Gardner is the lead. And in the next slide, I'll show you kind of the breakdown of the upcoming solicitations and how those are managed by these different contracting officers: Dana Bangart, Rashana Workman, and Randy Sadler. So coming up for the 2022 advertisements, Rashana Workman will be the water handling contracting officer. For Weed Wash, Randy Sadler will be managing that agreement and solicitation. And then refrigerated trailers, which the Northern Rockies does not solicit for specifically, will be managed by Taylor Jones. There are other regions within the East Zone that do solicit for those. The region Northern Rockies does not. Heavy equipment with water, Jeff Gardner, and then clerical support trailers, Dana Vanguard. I did want to make sure folks knew that the Equipment Service Branch is putting on vendor outreach sessions. We'll post the link in the chat for that. But the dates coming up for those 22nd, 24th, and 28th, all at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I did get to peek at that presentation, and they did a really great job, and they really go through the solicitations with a lot of detail and show you where things have changed from the past solicitations as far as the different clauses and wording that was either added or taken out. So definitely would recommend taking advantage of those opportunities here coming up this next week and the following week after that. And I did want to give an update for dispatch and IROC. There was definitely some of the issues last year for as far as folks' status went in the IROC system. The preferred method for vendors to manage their status is through the IROC self-status system. If you're familiar, we have this Contracting for Fire website. I'll try to remember to get the link for that in the chat as well. But there's a section there in the Contracting for Fire yellow box IROC updates that has a really nice video in there that goes over all the ways you would go about getting access to that system and how you would go about statusing your resources through that system. This is the video. I watched it. It's pretty straightforward. It's not too long. It was like 7 minutes. So if you go to the website, click, you'll find a link. You'll be taken to a page, and you'll watch a video that's pretty well put together. And then there's no questions of what the status of your resources are, if they're available, and at what geographic location are they available at, local, GAC, or national. Another thing I wanted to point out, and this is also can be navigated through the yellow box on the Contracting for Fire website, is the dispatch vendor source list. This is a list that is maintained by the Northern Rockies for all of those resources that we do not have a preseason agreement for. So you have some examples over here on the right side. Our log loaders, log forwarders, logging trucks, vehicle drivers, all of those things we don't have preseason agreements for, but we do have a need for. And so if you do have some of these resources and you want to let the government know they are available for fire use, this is the place to do it. There's a link right here on the bottom. If you go into the contracting updates on that yellow box, there's the 2022 Northern Rockies vendor source list. And there's also a memo that goes along with that. I recommend reading. It is still being, even though it says 2022, that memo has not been updated and signed off by the NRCG board. But there's not going to be a lot of changes to that memo. But we do need to update that for this coming season. But this link is open and it will remain open. And again, this is for all of those resources that are not a preseason agreement, something we don't establish through the Viper system. This is outside of the Viper system, just to be clear on that. And then that is all I have for the presentation. And we can jump into questions, and yeah, if you guys can put them in the chat. We can use the reaction setting there at the bottom of your screen, and I believe you can raise your hand if you have a question, and I'll have Patty help me work through any questions folks have, and we'll do our best to answer them. And I'll be relying on all the friends that I introduced in the beginning of the presentation.
Great, thanks, Ryan. Yeah, if you want to raise your hand and we'll call on you, or you can type into the chat box. We have one question starting out there. It says, where do vendors specifically navigate to get to self-status for EERA?
So EERAs are not housed in the IROC system. The resources that are housed in the IROC system are all the agency resources, and then anything on a preseason agreement. EERAs, emergency equipment rental agreements, are incident specific. So at the time of need, a procurement person would be looking at that list that we maintain among all the other available commercial resources out there to call it and find that and fill that need. And so there isn't any way to look at the status of an EERA. Once you have an EERA, you are at the incident working. Once they're done with that resource on that incident, that's the end of that agreement, because it is specific to the time frame within and the use needed for that at that incident. So that's a little bit different animal than the Viper IBPAs, the incident blanket purchase agreements.
Great. I had a question from someone earlier today. It asks, what type of information is the Forest Service looking for to verify the advantage points for the pump pressure? Do they want literature from the manufacturer or a pump test? This is in regards to new pieces of equipment that maybe have never been on a Viper yet.
Great question. Yes, we would accept from those folks just coming in who don't have any documentation as far as previous inspections on the pump pressure. If they submit the pump curve and the manufacturer and model of the pump that they have, we can deduce from that where your PSI is going to fall out. based on that pump curve that you would supply. So that's also an option for folks to get us that information so they can get the right points for what they input into the system, and we can rely on that information for the pump pressure.
Okay, Bonnie has her hand raised, and then we'll take one out of the chat next.
Okay.
This is Bonnie.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
We received a message that for the Skidgens, you need to weigh the tanks, both empty and then full, and have those weight tickets available.
Yeah, I'm not aware that we have that for the Skidgens. On the Skidgens, we do ask for an aftermarket certification done, which would provide the gallons for that equipment.
Copy that. We've had certification for that since 2003.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. Big Sky Rental wants to know, are the majority of agreements going to be ERA or versus incident only agreements? My question is in regard to the way payment is made via credit card or through SAM.
Yeah, so I guess I'm not, so I guess I kind of use those terms interchangeably. The EERA, the Emergency Equipment Rental Agreement, is an incident only agreement where the incident blanket purchase agreements, which we have solicitations out for now for water handling, weed wash, and heavy equipment with water. All of those are, the IBPAs are through the SAM system and electronic payments. And I believe they prefer the EERAs to be the same way depending on the amount. But Dana, do you have more information on how the payments work for EERAs, if that's
Sure.
If that's
So EERAs, the preference is that would be paid through SAM. If you don't have a SAM registration, we can do a one-time payment. But if you've already had that in the past, then Albuquerque Service Center will require you to get a SAM registration. If it comes in on a commercial agreement, then it'll go back to the purchaser for credit card payment. But I think from here on out, if it goes through our purchasing group, that's for incidents, you're going to see EERAs, which will then go to Albuquerque for payment, because we don't typically use a credit card to pay against an EERA. Does that help?
Yeah, that answered it for me. Hopefully that answered it for Big Sky.
Is it okay if I talk?
Yes, of course.
Okay, yeah, so we did a lot of the fire down here for Trail Creek, Wise River, all that area through the Dillon Dispatch Center. And so when we got paid for all those fires, Wisdom, Wise River Airport, all the way up to Idaho border, majority of those were incident only agreements through the Dillon Dispatch, and we were paid via credit card. Now, when we got dispatched to Great Falls, or say we had to go the other way, when there was one out of Butte Ranger District or do something else, we had to go through Albuquerque. And my only concern is, I mean, we have the equipment rental, but we also resource other equipment rentals to make sure we can provide what people are looking for. And when we have to pay different vendors, sometimes when we go through Albuquerque, it requires a different scope of paperwork. They have to be signed off when they get there versus, you know, I'm delivering 50 spider boxes down to the Wise River Airport and they're going through and trying to number everything, and everything gets a little hectic. But then towards the end of the agreement, some of them were like, we're going through Albuquerque and it's harder to get paid. Now I may have 40 of these spider boxes on hand and have to re-rent the other 10 to get them down to you, but I still have to pay vendors. So I guess it's more on the timeliness of payments and making sure I stay in good faith with these guys. And if there's going to be a set procedure, if I'm going to have to go through Albuquerque, exactly what we have to do so there's no hiccups or holdups on payments that way. Now, Dillon Dispatch Center, that whole way was just paid with credit cards. So I'm just trying to figure out the best way to go through this so we don't encounter that again.
So the thing is that it's going to be based on the purchaser's preference of who you work with. So you probably worked with a local contracting officer or purchasing agent that was sitting down there that had comfort level that was willing to pay you by credit card. Unfortunately, if you're dealing with our group is what it's called AIMS, the At Incident Management Support, you're probably going to get paid through Albuquerque by EERA because that's their preference. They are not considered a credit card payment center. Buying teams are probably going to, well, buying teams, you know, it really depends with buying teams and their comfort level. And that's probably who you're going to be working with quite a bit. So if it happens to be a Northern Rockies buying team, they might be more apt to do a credit card payment at the end. Unoperated equipment can go both ways. And so that's, I know it's very frustrating for your company. And I go out as a procurement unit leader for one of the type 1 teams in this. And what we tend to do is we would prefer that you just submit us an invoice. And if it all looks good, we try to get it to Albuquerque as soon as possible for payment and we sign off on it. Now, some teams don't have that comfort level. So unfortunately, I don't have like an answer that's going to be static for every fire that you're going to work with. But, you know, work with your contracting officer, find out how they're going to set it up so that you can at least manage it from there. You know, you'll see emergency equipment rental agreement, just know it's going to go to Albuquerque, or if it's BLM or something, it's going to go to their payment center. And unfortunately, I totally recognize that Albuquerque, you know, once they start getting backed up with payments, however, a lot of our payments for like the Viper stuff is going through an automated process. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe with the EERA, that might go a little bit quicker now without having everything to be going through the same system. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. I'll make sure I differentiate what kind of deal I'm going to be dealing with, so that when we drop off 50, they number and we stand out there, even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and make sure that they know they sign off and do it. Because the other guys know that we're trying to get it down there. We can track down the people that we dealt with because every 2 weeks they switch off.
Right.
And so just make sure that we have all our ducks in a row so it's easier for the Albuquerque buying team and to do things that I've just got to take extra precautions to protect us. But I do appreciate your time and thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, we'll go to Chris. He has his hand raised there.
Yeah. Hi, Patty. How are you? Actually, I got 3 questions for you. The first one, I was looking at the solicitation, and it says all resources submitted must pass a technical evaluation prior to being considered for award. And it has instructions to offers in E2, but I can't find any E sections in the solicitation.
I can answer that. So if you go towards the bottom of the PD, if you're looking at the PDF, like on the water handling, it's on about page 57 of the PDF.
Yeah, that's what page I'm on, is 57.
Okay.
And it tells me, yeah, to go to E2, but there's no E2s in here.
Yeah, the E2, you could, I mean, I'm happy to send you the highlighted solicitation so that you can find that section easier.
Okay.
It might be when you downloaded it or printed it, maybe something kind of went, wrong. But I think if you go to sam.gov to find the solicitations and download the solicitation packages from there, that's where you're going to make sure you can see the full package. Would you want me to send that to you, Chris?
You know, I did. That's how I downloaded it. It was off of sam.gov.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry it's not showing up. This is for which type of equipment?
Type 6 engines.
Okay. Water handling. Okay.
Yes.
I will email you the one I have saved to my computer, and I'll send you the link for the SAM too, so you can go back to it in case there's any amendments.
It sounds great.
All right. So one question.
The packet that we send in, do we send that all into Rashana Workman? You know, like all the photos and everything?
I could answer that too, if that's okay.
Yep.
No, you will collect all the photos and that are required in the specific list that's in section E2. And it's the photos can be different based on the type of equipment or based on the actual solicitation. So the photos for engines are different than the ones for water
Tenders and that, yeah.
Yeah, so when you
that.
collect all the photos up, then you're going to organize them and on your computer. And then when you go into the Viper application, you're going to be going to update your resources that are in there, and you're going to upload those photos right into the Viper application as part of updating the resource under the My Resources tab.
Okay.
Once you can update your resource or add a new resource, either way, if you're starting out, you'll be adding a new resource, but some people who have existing resources in there might just do the update. Once that's been confirmed through the Viper wizard on the resources tab, then you'll be able to submit your quote. You won't be able to submit your quote unless those pictures are uploaded. And it's important to note what the minimum number of photos are required.
Yes, I saw that.
Engine requires 7 photos. You have to upload 7 photos. And then you'll be able to get all the way through that wizard and get that resource updated correctly.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and then one other question I had too. Is there a cap for the bids putting in? And if a person ends up, you know, before I know it was like if a person put in too high, it get rejected, but sometimes they wouldn't allow them to rebid. How's that going to work?
It'll be similar. We did produce an independent government estimate that took into account the current economic situation and, you know, labor rates and kind of the labor shortage and inflation. And so we came up with an independent government estimate for the Northern Rockies that we thought was fair and reasonable for the resources that we're soliciting for. So if it does go outside of that ceiling, then that's when contracting officer will be contacting you to communicate about the quote that you submitted and seeing if you can.
And so they'll allow you to resubmit another bid. I guess, can you share us what the cap is?
No. Yeah, there's you know, I guess last night we talked about you can go in and look in the Viper system and see kind of where everybody else is currently for that type of resource. You can see what the highest bid is currently for that type of resource.
Yeah, I've got those printouts.
But yeah, as far as giving what that ceiling is, that's not something that's available to release.
Right. Well, I guess quick. So rephrase the question one more time here. So, you know, I was thinking going like 2,500 a day for a Type 6 engine. Is that above the price, the cap? Can you answer that one?
No. Yeah. No. This really. I mean, you're gonna have to take into account all your costs to make sure you're making a profit, and that's
that's why I kind of have that figure in mind. So I was just wondering if that was above the cap or not, or if I need to already readjust.
Yeah. No. I guess the best I can tell you is look at what's currently out there, and then obviously the economic conditions have changed, cost of fuel has changed. Everybody else has taken that into account. And we've taken that into account. So trying to make sure whatever you submit, you feel is gonna give you what you need to do business with the government.
Right.
If it's not, like I said, and like you mentioned, you'll be contacted by a contracting officer if it does exceed that ceiling.
So we'll be allowed to rebid on it if it is too high, or we get shut down out of it.
And I guess I haven't ever experienced what that looks like. I know I've just heard that a contracting officer kind of, basically contacts you and you guys kind of work through and negotiate what is come to a fair and reasonable price between the two of you. So there is the opportunity you're not kicked out if you put a bid too high. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yep. That helps. Thank you, Ryan. That's all the questions I have for now. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris and Ryan. I'm going to go to the next one in the chat. It says, is it possible to sign equipment up for 2 separate regions?
Not the same piece of equipment. You can only use whatever equipment. You can only sign up in the one dispatch center. But if you have multiple resources and you can have them stationed within 450 miles of that dispatch center, then you can do that, but not the same piece of equipment.
Thanks. I'm gonna go for the next one in the chat because they've been there for a little bit. It says, who will be, Dwayne Turk wants to know who will be conducting inspections, when and where are the existing MOU inspectors going to be used?
Okay, so as far as the inspections go, the who is, our subject matter experts that we've relied on for years. So it's probably somebody you would know, but I'm not going to throw out names. And as far as, I guess, would you say when and where, that's to be determined. So once we do get all the information in from the vendors with their quotes, we're going to take a random sample of all the resources because we don't have the capacity to do 100% inspection. So we're going to go about it in a random fashion, select those resources, and if you're selected, you will be contacted, and place and location will be determined at that point to get that inspection completed. As far as the MOU inspectors and verifiers, we are still relying on our MOU inspectors and verifiers to do verification of firefighters. And as far as using them for an inspection, we still will utilize them to do an inspection if there is replacement equipment that needs to be inspected. So if you have an engine that breaks down and you need to replace it, I didn't want you to have to be relying on the government to show up and do an inspection. My thought was an MOU inspector would be able to get to you quicker, get that completed, and then work through getting that equipment swap completed in the Viper system. So that's where we're utilizing the MOU inspectors and verifiers in Region 1 currently this year. Does that answer your question, Dwayne?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Okay, next we're going to go to Ed Sheffer on, has his hand raised up there. Then we'll go to Mary.
All right. My question is, can we submit after action evaluations and previous inspections in lieu of setting up 5 different weed wash units for pictures? They take approximately 4 hours a piece to set up and 4 hours a piece to tear down.
You restate that again, and after action review.
Our after action reviews and evaluations from previous fires, and also our evaluations and our inspections on them fires in lieu of setting up 5 different units for pictures.
Yeah, if you have previous inspections, like we do have for, like we're doing for the engines, if you have like a previous MOU inspection, we're using those to determine gallons. So if you have documentation and pictures and, you know, things from previously, I guess, we're not concerned with having, you know, pictures of it in the next couple of weeks, like as the solicitation is open and closes. We just want to make sure we're able to, whatever you submit, we're able to validate that it meets specifications. So if you have documentation and pictures that you can submit that can give us the opportunity to determine it meets those specifications, that's acceptable.
And another question related, they wanted a picture of the underbody washer in operation. We can just set it out in the snow and spray with it and take a picture of it. It doesn't have to be set up and working with the weed wash all set up either, does it?
If the underbody wash is just somebody with a power washer?
No,
Is
it's a spray bar that sits on the ground and they drive over.
You can take a picture of the spray bar and send that in.
All right.
You don't have to have it spray and
Hey,
water.
Ryan, I'll hop on too. So yeah, it does say in the solicitation, our opinion for the technical review, we don't need to see, I don't need to see a photo of the underbody system in operation. And that also reminds me, folks with water tenders, it also states that you need to take pictures of the spray bars in operation. If you don't have that, we don't take a photo that shows the spray bars. I don't need to see the spray bar in operation.
Okay, that's good to know. I get that question a lot. Did that answer your question, Ed?
So,
No.
thank you. Yeah, it did.
Okay, great. Thanks. Next, we're going to go to Mary's question. She's in the chat. She said, we have been reading the summary of changes documents. It says that under Exhibit M, you have to keep an inventory for review on demand. It also says to keep a list of extra items on the truck. Could you elaborate on that? And does that mean I have to inventory every little thing on the truck, such as the extra washers, gaskets, nozzles, and such? Our bid is over the unknown maximum bid amount. Do we get notified and get to resubmit, or are we out of luck for this contract round?
So
I guess that's two questions.
Yeah, Ryan, I'll take the inventory list. So the intent of that, and this is coming from other regions, there's concern about folks taking stuff that might not belong to them. And this, so just so everyone knows, this wasn't specific out of the northern region, but my recommendation is especially the higher dollar inventory items like your gated wise, nozzles, stuff like that. If you're carrying extra, I do recommend just having some sort of document on the truck that shows that you are in fact carrying extra. You don't need to include every gasket and washer, of course, but I mean, you know, the higher dollar items like gated wise, I would for sure recommend indicating those if you carry extra. And then I guess since this question keeps coming up, Dana, if you're still on, would you mind just kind of reassuring folks, or at least giving ESB's opinion as far as the bid process if folks overshoot it, so that neither Ryan or I kind of overstep our lane?
So this is my first year with the Viper contracts, but the way I understand it is if you're over what we consider the max, we will contact you and enter into negotiations to see how you came about your price, if there's ways to talk about it. And so you won't be automatically thrown out. You will go into negotiations by that contracting officer.
Thanks, Chris and Dana.
Thanks. Next, we're going to go to Elizabeth Stone. They ask, what is going to be the status of vaccinations and mask requirements for this fire season?
So with the IBPAs, there is no vaccination requirement. but we will be following the CDC regulations. So there will be mask wearing where it's appropriate, social distancing. And then dependent upon the incident, there could be testing if need be, if it requires, if there's outbreaks, whatever it is, and they feel a need to have testing, that may be a requirement at some incidents. But as far as the vaccination, there's no requirement. There's no requirement to show proof of vaccination or anything like that, but we will be following the CDC requirements that are out.
Great, thank you. We're gonna go to Bonnie and Dale, who have their hand raised. Bonnie?
No. Just kind of jumping ahead on the rollovers. I haven't seen anything on the rollovers on the rest of the equipment.
I think what he said is that when is the rollover mods coming? And I believe the answer to that is March 1st. They're going to start those and you'll have until March 31st to respond. Am I wrong or right, Ryan?
That's correctly that's what's being communicated as of now. That's the plan, is to have rollovers out March 1st and completed by March 31st. Does that still hold true, Dana?
Yes, that's the plan.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Dale.
Thank you.
We're gonna go to Cahoon in the chat. They're asking if a vendor says their equipment carries more gallons or a higher pump performance and the dispatch priority list is already established, what is going to happen? Is the dispatch priority list going to be adjusted throughout the season until everyone has been verified to be correct? What is going to be the repercussions for those vendors that mistype or mislead on their equipment?
So within the Northern Rockies, we're going to take a approach that we take the preseason inspections, really seriously this year, and focus in on that for this coming season, knowing that, there are going to be a lot of, there are going to be resources out there that didn't get looked at as well as we wanted to, or as the vendors wanted them to make sure there's a level playing field. So if there are vendors out there that decide they want to edge their way up on the dispatch priority list by fudging some numbers, and we're going to be checking at the pre-use inspection. We're going to be doing a robust inspection at pre-use inspections, and if we find that, then those vendors are going to be sent home and off the dispatch priority list until they get their equipment fixed. So we're talking suspension with those vendors that go outside and try to, it's going to be hard because there's going to be some folks out there that make an honest mistake, and that's going to hurt. But there's the reason we're going to take this really seriously and go. And it's going to be harsh for a lot of, I don't know, for a lot of folks, but hopefully not. It's going to be harsh, and the reason being because we're not going to be able to look at everything. So this is our opportunity to deal with those issues then. So that's really all I can say about that is, if you get caught fudging the numbers and don't have as many gallons as you say you do, and we catch you, it's suspension and you're out. You don't get to go to that incident, and you don't get to, and we'll have to correct it, which will take time. So you're going to be out for however long that takes. And if it's something egregious, it could lead to harsher circumstances. So that's where we're at with that.
Well, I think that the key is here also just to be accurate, because especially during fire season, DPLs are typically one and done. Like the COs don't want to be adjusting the DPLs. It just wreaks havoc in the system. So I mean, I would expect if somebody gets suspended because they either inadvertently or maybe deliberately fudge some numbers, most likely they'd be suspended through the season until we can pick them up during the rollover. And again, it could have worse consequences depending on the severity of it. So just be accurate and be honest when you put these numbers in.
Great, thank you. The next question is from Matthew Thompson. He asks, how will Region 1 engines be dispatched out of region? And how will out of region engines be dispatched to Region 1?
So within Region 1, we have an out of GAC award list. So basically every engine that has an award in the Northern Rockies is listed by best value, 1 down to 175 on best value. And so when an out of region order does come in, that's the list that they're going to go with, and whoever's the first one available going down that list is the one that's heading out of region. So that, yeah, that's maintained. That's something that can be viewed through navigating through the Northern Rockies Contracting for Fire website. And then as far as engines being dispatched into Region 1, you know, I think that's a little bit different depending on the region. I know Region 1 has a little bit different dispatch protocol for that. So I guess I'm not comfortable speaking for other GACs and how they go about doing that, but I know closest forces is a concept that is used, and I'm not sure if all regions do have utilize that same concept or not, but that's how Region 1 sends resources out of GAC.
There's a couple of things that could occur as well. Usually GAC to GAC resource movements typically go through NIC, which is out of Boise. And then if there is the opportunity, though, our neighboring dispatch centers along our borders, the dispatch centers can go dispatch to dispatch. So we can, our dispatch centers that border, let's say Region 6 and Region 4, they can pull resources in from those neighboring dispatch centers. But otherwise, then a lot of times it's going to be routed through Boise.
Great, thanks. I hope that helped answer your question. The next person we're going to take a question from is in the chat, and then that would be Elizabeth Stone. Will transports for heavy equipment be retained at fires or released?
That's up to the incident. So that's at the determination of the incident, whether they're retained or released.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bonnie, it looks like you still have your hand up. Do you have a question again? Bonnie and Dale?
That's fine. Just a question in my mind, and it says in the solicitation about verifying operators on this, and I think after this last fire season, there was some really questionable things out there on the ability of operators. So I just wonder if that's going to be a question in this best value.
So are you asking if, as far as the performance, and if we have questionable operators, and in operations, if operations gets us that information, that's something that they can be released from the incident for as not being competent in the work that they're doing. And then, and if that's something that it happens repeatedly, then there's there's definitely justification for suspension or termination. But that's also something we're during our pre-use inspection is making sure we're checking the verifications of these operators. And I know there's a lot of shifting of personnel on incident, but yeah, we're definitely taking that seriously, and if they're not competent operators, that does have consequence for those vendors.
My response to that is it did happen, and we ended up carrying a lot of those people this year. And yes, it was an intense fire season, but yes, for 15 seconds it was funny, and then it became painful.
Yeah, and I mean those are the things we need to be, I guess, alerted to when we can take action. It's difficult, I guess, at this point, and it was a big fire season, and yeah, there was, I'd imagine, a lot more than I'll ever know that was going on. But yeah, we're going to do the best we can to make sure we're getting quality folks out there. But it's not going to be perfect for sure.
No, but that affects our priority rating also.
We'll do the best we can to make sure we're vetting these folks, and yeah, I don't know what more to say. It's unfortunate for sure, and I know we're trying to do the best we can to keep a level playing field for folks out there, and we'll continue for that effort. But I thank you for your concern and bringing that up. And we're definitely aware, and we'll keep working to do what we can to make sure we're getting the quality folks out there, because there's a lot of concerns around that.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. And I think you witnessed it yourself. So, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. We're going to go on to the next question in the chat. Mary is trying to find a list of previous bids. Mary, PTAC can help you locate that, but it's going to be in the yellow box. Contracting for fire at the NRCG website is one good place to start. You just need to go to where it says agreements and dispatch, and then you can click on the out of area dispatch priority list, and you'll be able to look at the pricing that's been was last posted in the previous season. Did that answer your question, Mary?
Yes, you did. I was on the complete wrong website. Thank you.
You're welcome. The next question is from Big Sky Rental. Wants to share thoughts on a sure way to get our capability statement and equipment list out there to the procurement team to ensure that local companies are getting considered versus a non-local bigger outfit. Maybe send to local DNRC, BLM, USDA, Forest Service dispatch centers, or any thoughts that you have on this? Just trying to ensure that our local company, that they are being considered, the local companies.
Well, I can answer that. There's that source list that Ryan had shown on the NRCG website. I will also put another link in for the Incident Management Support, which is a national group. I'll put in their source their links so that you can get on their source list as well. And as buying teams, we will rely on the Region 1 if we have buying teams here in Region 1, but the Ames list is national. So every buying team that's out on the fire will have access to that if it's a Forest Service incident.
That's great. Thanks, Dana. That sounds great.
Thank you.
I'm going to go next to Spencer, who has his hand raised. You can unmute, Spencer.
I had a question on the bidding for the engines. When it comes to foam and supplies, is that something that we should just have enough for a few working shifts and then will the Forest Service provide more if they need it? Or is that something that we should carry a bunch and put that into our price of our bid?
Yeah, I believe in the solicitation, it does say you have to carry enough supply for a few shifts, and then it will be restocked by the government. But I'd have to look specifically, but there's somewhere in the solicitation that does say, as far as inventory for foam, how many shifts, and I'll have to double check what that is. But I know it did read where the government does resupply that foam if it is used, but you do have to have a certain amount of stock on the engine. So I don't have the specifics, but we could dig in there and find that for you.
Okay, thanks.
That sounds great. Thank you. The next question is from Randy Thompson. He wants to know, what date do the photos need to be submitted for type 1 Skidgens?
That date is March 11th. So the whole Viper submittal, which includes the photos for the heavy equipment with water, is due March 11th.
Great. The next question, for Skidgens, will we be required to have our own radios?
Yes, that's a change to the solicitation this year. I did catch that on previewing the ESB's presentation that was a change, and there's the radio requirement for Skidgens, heavy equipment with water resources in general.
Okay. The next question I'm going to again is from Big Sky Rental. She asks, can we also get the link for the East Side virtual vendor meetings? I think they're in the slideshow, and we can email the slideshow to everybody.
I'll post it right now.
Okay, thank you. Little dude just says hi to Dale Flanagan. I don't know what that's about. All right. The next question, I don't see any more questions right now, and I don't see any hands raised. I see the links out here, and I was going to put the links to all the solicitations on the chat. If you have some questions, don't be shy. You can ask a question. I think we've gotten a lot of insight tonight. If there's something that you're curious about, or you come up with a question later on too, you can contact, your PTAC that's near you too, and we'll help you identify some answers the best we can on all these solicitations. We are pretty experienced at looking at all this. I see Ed has a question. Ed, go ahead.
My question is for yellow card training for the weed wash. They're basically a camp crew. We've been on fires where they said we didn't need it. We've been on fires where they said just head operator needed it. And I was just wondering, it's kind of hard to find personnel now anyhow, but when it comes time for the fire and all them classes are over with by then, I was just wondering what the what the feeling is on yellow card training for weed wash crews.
Yeah, are you talking like the RT-130 training?
Yes.
Yeah, so the Northern Rockies states in their chapter 20 that if we have folks staying in camp, then weed walk or then RT-130 is a requirement. I know that there's some resources that it's a maybe, and it depends on the host agency. So really, the safest bet is to have your folks have that RT-130, because it can differ between different agencies. But in the Northern Rockies, that is what is in the chapter 20, which is the action supplement for RT-130 training.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any, the list of our G130 trainings, that's going to be at the NRCG website, I think?
Yeah, so right now we're really relying on our MOU training providers to let us know when they are putting on those courses, and we'll post a link that shows kind of when and where and what they're putting on. So as we get that information, we'll get it posted. But we also do have a list of all of the MOU training providers. And if if you have a lot of people, or if you're not finding anything and you want to get it done, you can contact them directly as well. If there's one close to your area, and see if they can get something going for you, or when they might be having something going for training.
Thanks. Cliff Whitegrass wants to confirm what we had discussed earlier in the meeting. For those of us that have had awards previously, can we use that to verify our gallons and gross vehicle weights? Am I correct on this, or did I misunderstand what was said earlier? Also, can we use our equipment description from the Viper site?
So yes, if you had a previously awarded resource, and you would have had a pre-award inspection by one of the MOU inspectors, we will accept that documentation, which would have your weights on there and the gallon capacity for gallons. We could use that as documentation for that, so you don't need to go out and fill your equipment up with water to get a weight slip fully loaded and then one without. So if you do have that documentation, then yes, you can use that documentation. As far as the description of the equipment on the Viper site, I'm not sure what that's referring to. We do need kind of everything that is in the requirements to submit. So all the pictures, you're gonna have to put in the VIN number in the system. You're gonna have to get us a picture of your VIN number and your data plate. So all that still needs to be done, but in lieu of having folks run and fill up their trucks if they don't have weight slips for them, that's kind of what that was referring to. You can use a prior MOU inspection for that documentation.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the clarification. Spencer asked, do we have a link for the clerical support trailers? And I just did a quick search on sam.gov, and I think that one might be a little bit behind the other solicitations. Can someone from the Forest Service confirm that? Because I'm not seeing it pop up right now.
So the template will be finalized and released, I think, this weekend, and then we'll begin the pre-solicitation process. That'll go for 2 weeks, and then we'll post the solicitation. So I would say probably 2 to 3 weeks out will the solicitation be posted.
Great, thanks for the update on that. Oh, we already typed it in the chat. Thank you. All right, Patty needs to pay closer attention. I need some of that ice cream, I think. All right, so Logan is asking, can you explain the IROC system a little bit more? Is it needed on top of a Viper bid, or what opportunities does it present?
So the IROC system is the incident resource ordering system that dispatchers use. So once you, if you have, so kind of all the resources for fire are listed in there, and when an order comes through, they can go through it and see who's up on the dispatch priority list and call them up and get them ordered and get them a resource. So that system, like I talked about earlier, it's where you would let basically communicate to the dispatch centers your availability, whether you're available or not, and also the location that you're available for. So if you're just available locally, whether you're available in the state, whether you're available within the GAC, the geographic area, so North Idaho, Montana, and South Dakota, and part of South Dakota, North Dakota, or nationally. So that's kind of what that system does, is allows your resource to get ordered. So it's not, they pull that information in somehow through Viper, so they have everybody's agreement number, contact information, and then that's what they use to dispatch resources, is what that system IROC is. So hopefully that answered it and didn't confuse it more for you.
I would just add one thing to that, if I could. That system is one that you have to enroll in, and you use your level 2 e-authentication to enroll in it to start out. And the PTAC can help you, guide you through the steps if you need help. And then there's a good video and resources in the yellow box on the NRCG's website as well. So just know that if you're new to contracting, after you get your award, you would enroll and then get the correct permissions inside the IROC system from the Forest Service representatives that will load your equipment in there, and then that's how you'll self-status. The next question is from John Alport. For engines and the photos required by March 10th, is there a guidance for equipment that's being built or rebuilt and the truck may not be complete? So some people have invested in building some new equipment, it sounds like, and want to know if they don't, what happens then?
Yeah, I guess guidance there would be submit, any of the pictures you do have, any of the documentation you do have for that truck. And then we get you in the system, and you might not get an award for this year, but then I guess put you in a position to where once you do have that truck completed, you could potentially get awarded the following year. So kind of depending on where you're at with that truck, and the time it takes to get a final award for this year, for this solicitation cycle. So I guess the guidance is submit whatever you have for that truck, and that'll leave some options available for you. But yeah, I guess the caution there is you might not be able to get assignments for that truck this fire season, but there's potential in the following seasons. You'll at least have your foot in the door for that.
That's great info.
And to tag on to that too, just really encourage you to make sure you get something in. Like I told the last meeting, if you don't put anything in the submittal, we're dead in the water. So at least if you have a submittal in I've talked to some folks that, as we're all aware, there's some pretty significant supply chain problems occurring. So if you're just, missing a part or a piece, some folks will be able to get them through and the truck will be ready before fire season. So but again, not a guarantee you'll have, like Brian said, maybe you'll be kind of in that limbo status for one season, worst case scenario. But if you don't have a submittal in, then there's absolutely nothing we can do at that point until the next solicitation cycle.
We have a few thank yous in the chat. You're welcome, everyone. Thanks to Patty, Chris, Ryan, and Dana. And appreciation showed there. There's one more question from Cliff here. Can you elaborate more on how the process of getting a 5% for being service disabled? I heard something about the VA cannot verify this and we have to go through the SBA. We don't have that verification. So how I might be able to answer that question if you would like.
Yeah, Patty, that'd be, I
Okay.
don't have an answer.
So up until the end of 2022, veterans are able to self-certify. Service disabled veteran-owned small businesses are able to self-certify at SAM.gov. But the program, they do need to start getting certified as a service disabled veteran-owned business, either through the VA's program or in 2023, that program is going to be managed by the SBA. The program itself will still be remaining in the kind of the format that the VA has put together. But the National Defense Authorization Act required that this verification process for service disabled veteran-owned businesses be moved under the SBA's small business programs for government contracting. So what you would want to do is start getting that service disabled veteran-owned small business certification done over the next few months. It can take a little bit of time to get that to go in. And I think when I've talked to contracting officers in the past, and, please correct me if I'm wrong, if you get a verification for any of the small business programs that are set aside for these agreements, and let's say you don't get it done by March 10th, but you get it done, it gets done in August of this year. A lot of times what I've heard is the contracting officers will consider that on the rollover mod to get you that parity of the 5% if you have the certification. But all these small business programs now that are set aside for these agreements, they all have fully vetted verification processes, and it can take anywhere from a couple of months to 6 months to be verified and certified through the different programs, primarily under the SBA. Did that answer your question? So I guess my biggest advice on that question is check in with PTAC near you, and they can kind of help guide you through that process. And then if anyone from the Forest Service wants to confirm or not confirm that in subsequent years on an agreement, you don't have to, if you have the certification, can you get it like on a rollover mod or something like that if you get certified in a mid-year kind of cycle?
Patty, I don't know that answer right now, but I'm more than happy to ask my
Okay.
tomorrow, and then I can let you know.
I guess I had been kind of, that's just a memory I have of asking someone in the past, and that was kind of the answer for that. So that's great. Let's see if there's another question. Little Dude says, any thoughts on the heavy equipment task forces after taking your survey earlier this year?
Yeah, I replied that we could basically talk offline, and I can speak more to that with
Okay,
whoever that was from.
okay, great. I guess that's it. If there's no more questions, I don't see any more in the chat. If I appreciate everyone and everyone from the Forest Service being here and offering such insightful and helpful information that kind of provides learning for all of us. And for my PTAC colleagues who hung out with me and helped me manage some of this meeting tonight, I really appreciate that too. I guess there might just be one more question about at the last, before we say goodbye, good night, we love you, we're going to answer Chris's iPad question. Will a copy of the title of the truck work in lieu of the VIN tag if the tag is so worn it's unreadable?
Yeah, submit whatever you have that you have for documentation for that truck. If you have if that is unreadable, yeah, I guess take a picture of that and then also say and submit the truck's title information, but whatever you can to verify, and we'll take a look. And if we have additional questions, we'll be getting in touch with you.
Great. Have I missed any questions? All right, I think we're good. Thanks again, everyone, for being here. And if you need anything, you know where to find us. So nice to see everyone.
Thanks, Patty.
Thank you, Patty.